Today we're going to continue with our lesson 1. We're on day 8 and we are going to be continuing part 2 of activity E. If you will all please turn to page 9 in your Wordly Wise book. Yesterday we read through the text about Maya Angelou and her life, and then I had you do a second read where you were focusing on the bold words in context. Today we're going to analyze the text through vocabulary questions and comprehension questions. There are 15 questions we're going to work through today. If you'll please look at the bottom of page 9, the directions say, answer each of the following questions with a sentence. If a question does not contain a vocabulary word from the lesson's word list, use one in your answer. Use each word only once. So let's look at question number 1. It says, why is it inaccurate to say that Mama was Mrs. Henderson's pseudonym? So it's inaccurate that her nickname is a pseudonym. So we know that Miss Henderson was Maya Angelou's grandma, who raised her for a while, and they called her Mama instead of Grandma. Well, this would be a nickname and not a pseudonym. A pseudonym is a pen name. It takes the place of a name for different purposes. So we're going to look at how we could write that in a sentence. So she was called Mama instead of Grandma, but that is a nickname and not a pen name. So you're distinguishing between the definition of a pseudonym and a nickname, and understanding that someone getting a nickname is not the same thing as a pseudonym. A pseudonym is like a alternate name to protect your real name, and for many different reasons. Most of the time, writers you do this. So copy that sentence down into your notebook. Remember to capitalize the first word and use a period at the end of your sentence. When you're done that, flip over the page to page 10. Page 10 also has a list of your vocabulary words on the left side so you can see them. Sentence number 2 has a vocabulary word in it, and let's see what it wants us to do. Why would you not use the word concise to describe the title of Angelou's first book? Well, if we remember that concise means short and to the point, the title of her first book, if you remember in the beginning of this passage, said that she wrote a book called I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings. Some might argue that that title is extremely long, so it is not concise. So you're going to answer this question by showing that you understand the meaning of concise. So you could write something like, her first book has a long title, and concise means short and to the point. So you may want to write that sentence. Notice I forgot the H in the word has, so make sure you fix that right here. That was a typo. It's good to reread your work so you find errors. Again, capitalize the first letter of the first word and use a period. So by explaining that her title is long, you are showing that you understand the meaning of concise. Number 3, it says, why did Angelou compose On the Pulse of the Morning? Now notice that this question has no vocabulary word in it. So what the direction said was, when you answer this comprehension question, use a vocabulary word in your answer. So the question is, why did she write this piece? And if you remember at the end of the passage, it talked about her presenting this poem at somebody's event. And so we got to remember, what was the event? And is that our vocabulary word? Which it is. To present at Clinton's inauguration. Why did she write it? She wrote this poem to present at Clinton's inauguration, which is when he was elected president and he was becoming sworn in. So be sure that you write the word inauguration correctly and you use a capital and a period. Remember, because it is a thing, it's not just to inaugurate, it's the actual event. All right, let's look at number 4. Why did Mrs. Henderson have to be knowledgeable about business? Again, no vocabulary word we're trying to analyze. We're trying to talk about comprehension and use a vocabulary word in it. So why did Mrs. Henderson have to be knowledgeable? Well, remember, she owned a business. She owned a corner store, which would be like a 7-Eleven, or like what we would consider going to the gas station today without the gas station. So what do we use in a vocabulary word that means to be a business owner? If you remember, the word is proprietor. So she was a proprietor of a general store. So we're answering the question while also showing that we understand the meaning of the vocabulary word. Copy that sentence into your book. Make sure you spell it correctly, and capital and period. Number 5, why was Mama desperate to get her granddaughter to a dentist? So if you go back into the passage and remember why Grandma took her to the dentist, we know she had a bad toothache. So, but what word can we use in there to describe the toothache so that we're showing we understand another vocabulary word? If you go back into the story, you'll see the word that was used around the idea of going to the dentist. And we know that she was in excruciating pain. So Grandma needed to get her to a dentist to solve her pain. All right. Write that sentence in your book. Be sure to spell it correctly, capital, period, at the end and beginning of your sentences. Number 6, how did the dentist let Mama know that she was not welcome? So remember, when Grandma took her to the dentist was not pleased about having her as a patient. Why? And what did he do to show that? Remember, there's no vocabulary word in the sentence, so we have to use one in our answer to the comprehension question. So here's an example. He demeaned her by making racist remarks. So our word was to demean. I added a suffix to show past tense. He demeaned her by making racist remarks. Remember, he was refusing to serve her as his patient because of the color of her skin. So if you will copy a sentence like mine on your page, you will have used a vocabulary word in your answer. For the remainder of the time today, I'm going to allow you to go through 7 through 15, kind of doing the same strategy I've already done. If you're on page 9, you will be able to, and 10, you'll be able to see the words on the left-hand column of your notebook, and you will be able to decide if you have used those words already or if they've already been used in a question. So look at the words that have been used in a question and decide, can I now use them in an answer choice? It might be smart to cross out all the ones used in a question and the ones we use together, and that will narrow down your selection. So I'm going to ask your teacher to pause the video and let you finish working through 7 through 15, alone or with a partner.